Hey guys, welcome back to Elden Ring Nightreign. If you're looking for a video on everything you need to know about the best characters for you as a beginner, this guide has all the information you need. So as always, if you enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, let's get into it. First on the list we have Recluse. She focuses on casting spells, because she's a mage. But also, before I get into all these characters, I'm going to go do a brief guide on all of them. I'm not going in depth in this video. So if you want an in-depth guide, let me know. But this is going to be a quick, fast guide to learn about the characters you might like to try out and how to use them. First, let's get into her stats. First thing to keep in mind is her HP is really low. Recluse has the least amount of HP in the game, so basically you can get one shot if you're not leveled enough. But she does have a good amount of FP and stamina. Her stamina is not the best, but it also isn't the worst. But of course, her main use is being a mage, so you're going to have to be playing from range. So for a scaling stat, she has D in strength, S in faith, C in dexterity, C in arcane, and S in intelligence. So she has S in the stat she needs. So she can use any sorcery in the game and do a lot of damage. These two stats together is the reason she can do a high amount of damage. So basically the only reason you should be worried about is because of her health. But you should be playing range since you're a mage anyways. So now let's get into her skills. For the first one, it's called Elemental Defense. What this does is you can go steal FP, so you can never run out of it. And I know you don't want to hear this, but the only way you're going to learn and beat bosses is by playing the character and learning how to use these moves. Because if you run out of FP in your fights, you're basically useless. So that is the only thing to worry about for her. The other move where you can steal people's moves, there's these 3 circles you can fill up, but once the 4th one is filled, it'll do a special move that does a good amount of damage. For the ultimate, you put this like red vines all over the arena, and this ultimate is actually one of the most helpful ones in the game. That's why she's so useful in trios, because what this ultimate does is it puts this red mark on everyone around you, and if you're low, hitting them while they have it, you will regain HP and FP for both you and your teammates. That is the reason she's basically needed on a trios team. And that's everything you need to know about Recluse. Let's get into our next character. Next is Raider. So you'll probably think this character is bad, but you're actually wrong. Raider is a tanky build like from Elden Ring strength builds. So if you like strength builds in Elden Ring, Raider is basically made for you. His job is to tank hits and hit hard. In my opinion, he's one of the easiest characters to play. I actually played him a bit in the start of the game also. The reason he's easier to use than other characters is because he can just tank hits and just boink enemies, which I mean is really fun. When it comes to stats, Raider has A in HP, D in FP, and A in stamina. Because of his stamina, this makes him the second tankiest build in the game, besides Guardian. Just make sure you're using colossal weapons with him, then you'll be fine. Now let's get into his skills. For his first skill, Retaliate, Raider basically screams, then does his attacking hit on the floor. It does a decent amount of damage also. But the main thing is if you're getting continuously attacked, you can use the skill and it basically shields you. And it also makes sure you don't die. It also breaks the enemy's stances. The cooldown on it is around 12 seconds, so you can continue spamming it. For his passive, it's basically the same thing. The only difference is the way you activate it. The only way to activate it is by getting hit a few times. Then you'll see this glowing smoke around his body. Then you'll know that it's active. And once you do the retaliate move, it'll switch the action from kicking the floor to doing an uppercut, which does a bit more damage than the normal retaliate. Then for his ultimate. This one is a bit weird, and I don't really understand it. But the way it works is it does damage to everyone near you. Then it spawns a rock in. And just to let you know, it has iframes, which can help you avoid attacks. Once you put this rock down, it boosts the damage of you and your allies by 30%, but also it can cause a problem for your allies. But if you know how to use Raider, then this won't be a problem. Overall, Raider is a very good character for you. Now, let's get into the next character. Next is Wylder, and I might be biased because I played him so much. But he's definitely one of my favorite characters in the game, because I played him so much. There's nothing very special about Wylder. He's just a very fast and agile character. There's really nothing special about him. And he's actually very easy to use. That's why many people use him. For his stats, he has A in HP, C in FP, and B in stamina, which is actually pretty good because he's agile and kinda tanky at the same time. Also, you can probably get away with using any weapon you like with him. Besides, of course, magic. But any sword in the game will be good to use with him. Also, he has A in strength, C in faith, B in dexterity, C in arcane, and C in intelligence. He's actually a very well-rounded character. That's why when you play him, he feels like so good. As I said, any sword will work for him, since he has A in strength. For his skills, his first skill is called Claw Shot. This ability makes you launch a grappling hook at the enemy. It either pulls them towards you, or if they're too big, they just take damage. You can also grapple the floor with this ability. I don't really know what the passive is. If you know, just explain it in the comment section, but I don't think I actually used the passive on him. But for his ultimate, it's actually a pretty good ultimate. It shoots an explosion that does a decent amount of damage. But if you have an ultimate and your teammates are down, you can use the ultimate on them and they'll get revived, which is actually really useful if you're on the last fight. That's everything you need to know about Wylder. I actually really enjoyed his character, but maybe the next character might change your mind about Wylder. So let's get into the next character. Next is Executor. This is actually my new main. He uses bleed and that's why he is so good. Also, bleed is still as good as it was in Elden Ring, just not as broken, but it's still good. He's perfect for players who want to be a Sekiro build, because he has a similar parry ability to Sekiro. He's basically just a dex build, so if you love dex builds in Elden Ring, you definitely need to play him. He's a pusher style, but there's only one issue. You shouldn't be trying to tank hits with him. That's why his parry is there. You need to try and pull out this ability whenever you need to. It's up to your response time to be good with him. The parry isn't easy, but it's a lot easier than normal. For his stats, he has B in HP, D in FP, and B in stamina, which is actually really good as a dex character. But you're going to have to keep in mind the FP is not great, so you can't cast much. But that shouldn't be an issue because he also has C in strength, S in dex, D in faith, S on arcane, and D in intelligence, which obviously our two main stats we're gonna be focusing on is dex and arcane. This is what makes him so good. Just keep in mind, only use the stuff that goes with dex. No great swords or titan weapons, only dex based weapons. For the skills, the passive skill is not that useful. This passive only works if you get poisoned. Besides that, it can't work. That's the one requirement that requires this to activate. That's why it's not that useful. But when you do activate it, it gives you a boost on 2 stats. But this ability is not that useful. The next ability, Suncatcher, is quite the opposite. You need to use this most of the time. The way this one works is it has a built-in shield, but 10 times better. You just need to parry the enemies, and the parry is basically like Sekiro, like I said in the start. But you can only do a attack when it matters. There's also an attack that you can do when you deflect a lot of times, and you can actually store this attack. So if you deflect and don't want to use it, you can just store it like a normal attack and go back to it when you want to use it. Just remember, while you're using Suncatcher, it does not make your bleed proc. But you should not be using it to deal damage. You should be only using it when you need to parry. Now for the ultimate. I'm sure everyone knows about becoming an alpha wolf. This is the aspect of the Crucible Beast, who basically turns into a big wolf. But you can basically just use your attacks like normal and hit a lot. You also get a lot of HP in this form, so you can spam attacks and tank. Then there's also a range ability, where you can roar from a distance away. You can actually heal your teammates if they're down with this ability. So if your teammate is down in the distance, you can just use your ability and then they get rest. Overall, Executor is really good for people who just want to be in action and fight, especially if you like playing dex builds. So if you enjoy using dex builds, you definitely need to try him out. Now let's get into the next character. Next up is Eye. I don't really know a lot about Eye. He's good if you want to play distance and passive, but his main thing is using a bow. Yes, you can use other weapons like sword and claws, whatever you like, but his main purpose is using a bow. That's why he's so good. He also has unlimited ammo in your bow. And also he shoots very fast. It's not slow at all. He actually shoots the fastest in the game. That's why he's actually a very useful character. His stats are C in HP, C in FP, and B in stamina, which is not bad, but he doesn't have the most health or FP. But it's enough for you to do things with the stamina, of course. But obviously, you need stamina to spam your arrows. Also, remember, Eye isn't really a solo player. He's a team player. so just keep that in mind when you're using him. He also has C in Strength, D in Faith, A in Dex, B in Arcane, D in Intelligence, which is actually really good. So if you want to swap to a Dex build and get in action, you actually can, because I has really good Dex stats. But obviously I recommend using both, a bow and a Dex build. For his skills, the passive ability is called Eagle Eye. What it does is it gives you a chance to get more drops when you defeat enemies. There's a higher chance for your enemies to drop something. For the next skill, his main one, called Marking. It basically marks the enemy and you will do 10% more damage to that enemy. And if you hit that specific spot that is targeted, you will get a stagger on your enemy, which is actually pretty useful and will help a lot. Also, try to aim for the spot that is marked, because it will just be better for you and make the mark last longer. Then for his ultimate, it's called Single Shot. What this is it goes through multiple enemies. So let's say you're aiming at a boss. It will also go right through the enemies and hit the boss. So it's a really good one to have when there's a lot of enemies around. Overall, he's really good. You can play for range or close range if you want, which is really helpful, so you can get to pick what you want to play. Even if you get bored mid-game, you can just switch to a Dex build. But I'm sure if you're playing I, you won't want that. But that is the option. Now, let's get into the next and last character. Next on and last on the list is Guardian. By the way, the reason I'm not adding Revenants or Duchess is because that is not a beginner character. But if you want a guide on them, just let me know, and I can do that for you. Anyways, I might have just had a bad experience with Guardian, but in my opinion, he's actually bad. I just don't know what to do with him. Maybe it's because there's so many better characters for me because I'm a Dex player, but you can choose from what you like about him. But also you need to remember you have to try him out in order to know if you like him. Now let's get into his stats. His stats are S in HP, C in FP, and A in Stamina, which is actually really good stats. But the problem is the fact that he's so slow and tanky. So maybe I'm just biased about him, that maybe I don't like him because I'm a Dex pusher, but that is probably why I don't like him. For his other stats, he has B in Strength, C in Faith, C in Dex, C in Arcane, and D in Intelligence, which is actually a really well-rounded stats for him. But as I said, the problem is he's slow. He's really tanky, but also he's not the good kind of tank. He's like really heavy. He's literally heavier than Raider. Just keep in mind, I had a bad experience with him because I don't use shields also, so that is just not my character. But if you want to use shields, he is the best character in the game for that. Now let's get into his skills. His first skill, the passive, it's called Steel Guard. What it does is it improves his stance, so it increases his guard boost, so he can just stand firm and make his guard good. The only downside about this is you can't run while doing this ability. Next is called Whirlwind. This makes your opponent fall on the floor, or if you're in a group of enemies, it will just kill them. But it doesn't work on bosses, so keep that in mind. But it's really good for groups of enemies or normal characters. Now for his ultimate, Wings of Salvation. This ability makes you go in the air and plummet down on your enemies. But this is actually something that made me rethink this character, just because of this ultimate. If you use it on your teammates and they have 3 full bars, they will get revived no matter what. So if you're playing Guardian, make sure to keep this ability for your teammates in case they get down in the last fight. It doesn't do much damage to your enemies, so ignore that. But also, you need to rethink what I said in the start. But it doesn't do much damage to your enemies, so ignore what I said in the start. If you're a good Guardian, your job is to protect your allies. Now for the next move. If you use the R2 move and hold it down, it'll make you and your allies immune for 5 seconds if you're standing in the radius, which is actually really helpful. Just remember, the only way you're going to be enjoying him is if you play him and know how to play him, which I explained how to. I just didn't know how to play him at the time. And after a bit of playing and trying him out, I can say he's actually a really good character. But that's only if you're looking to help your teammates. And that's the entire video. If you made it to the end, make sure to comment down below your favorite character that you chose from this video. And also make sure to like and subscribe, it really helps me out and lets me know that you enjoy my videos.